Hello and welcome to Free Friday Frights. This is Mark Leslie, and this is the special October 2018 edition, which is recorded for Friday, September 26, 2018. Today, the topic is going to be Halloween. Why not? The best holiday in the universe. Now, originally, Halloween was a pagan festival of the dead known as All Saints' Day or All Hallows' Day, which is November 1st, so October 31st being the eve of that, of course, is Halloween. It was also known as All Souls' Day, and according to the original custom, the celebration of the dead is happening in conjunction as the sun sets the evening before that day, so as the sun sets on October 31st. And it's usually said that the dead are to get up and to roam around the earth. So some of the origins of the festival have survived to the present day in popular culture, as we know as Halloween, which is a night of trick-or-treating by children dressing up in costumes. Now, in the 17th century, the Catholic Church used the very same day as a way to honor and celebrate the known and unknown saints and the martyrs of the church. And they had originally celebrated this on May 13th, but they moved it to November 1st in the 8th century. Now, the ancient Celts referred to the festival surrounding this day as Samhain, and it was used to celebrate the onset of winter, sort of a harvest festival and the beginning of the Celtic New Year. Samhain actually translates in different ways to end of summer. And in Ireland, the celebration was known as Samhain, spelled E-I-N rather than A-I-N, or the Feast of the Sun. And in Scotland, the term Halloween was used, and that's the Halloween that actually has an apostrophe between the two, the double E's in Halloween. Now, the act of children dressing up as we know it nowadays and going door to door to collect treats was very likely adapted from the Gaelic practice of giving cakes to the poor. They were also known as soul cakes, and this was done in return for praying for a good harvest, praying for prosperity, and praying for protection against bad luck. The concept of the trick is said to have likely been derived from an English plough day custom, where plowmen would go door to door begging for gifts, and if they didn't receive anything, they would threaten to damage the grounds with their plows. Now, there are so many different customs associated with Halloween, and here are just a few sort of trivia bits that I've sort of gathered together to talk about. Now, this first one is related to a recent book that I co-wrote with author Shana Krishnasamy, in which we released this October 2012, and you know, it would be sort of negligent for me not to at least mention one of my books in this, right? Because, you know, a little bit of self-promotion never hurts. But Macabre Montreal was released this month, and one of the chapters in Macabre Montreal was about the death of Harry Houdini. Now, it's pertinent to Montreal because of how how that led to his death, but he actually died on Halloween. So Harry Houdini was one of the world's most famous magicians, and somebody who was very popular at debunking false spiritualists, people who were using seances, etc., to rip other people off and trick them. He ended up dying on October 31st, 1926, and he died in Detroit at the age of 52. Now, he died of peritonitis, which is basically related to a ruptured appendix. And it's commonly stated or believed that he died due to repeated blows to his abdomen. He did receive a blow to his abdomen. I can't pronounce it, apparently. He did receive a blow to his abdomen. And it was from a university student from McGill University in Montreal. There's the connection to Montreal. And ironically, he didn't die from the punch to the stomach. What a lot of people believe is that he had appendicitis around the same time that he received the punch. And because it was such a bad punch that bruised him, he believed that the pain in his stomach was caused by the punch and not from the underlying appendicitis, which sort of masked the fact, had he realized he had had appendicitis, very likely he could have been treated earlier and he very likely would have survived. So interesting fact of Harry Houdini, world's most famous magician, dying on Halloween. Now, one of the origins related to Halloween is the thing that we do. We take pumpkins and we carve them when we make these. Typically, it used to be a face, but now we do all kinds of amazing artwork on our pumpkins, and we call them jack-o'-lanterns. And one of the origins that sort of traces back the carving of jack-o'-lanterns goes back to Ireland, where they actually used to carve turnips. And it goes back to this legend of a man who is known as Stingy Jack. Now, he was a miserable old drunk, and he enjoyed playing tricks on people. But allegedly, he played a trick on Satan, and there's a few different versions of it. One of them relates to climbing a tree, another one relates to coins. But at the end of this trick, entrapping Satan, Jack makes a deal with him to release him, so long as Satan promises not to take his soul. So Jack, who was not a very good man, when he died, he was denied entrance to heaven. But then he was also denied entrance to hell. He was banned from hell. So Satan gave Jack a single burning coal, and Jack placed that into a hollowed out turnip, which was used as a lantern, and he spent eternity wandering the earth with this lantern, hopelessly looking for a resting place. It's kind of an eerie fitting tale for Halloween. And that is one of the legends that allegedly tells us where the custom of the jack-o'-lantern comes from. Obviously, the lantern and Stingy Jack, jack-o'-lantern. Quite a bit an interesting tale. So when you see those pumpkins beckoning you on Halloween on October 31st, think of poor old Stingy Jack aimlessly looking for his home. A few other trivial facts that I pulled up. So according to the National Confectioneers Association, I think it was 2017, but 1/4 of all the candy sold in the United States every year is purchased specifically for Halloween. And in addition, a majority of all candy given out on Halloween is chocolate. Excellent, love my chocolate. Three out of every 10 homes will pass out lollipops or other types of hard candy. And speaking of candy, candy corn, which was created in the late 1800s, and the three colors are meant to look like the colors of kernels in actual corn, and more than 35 million pounds of candy corn is produced each year. And I don't know why, because it tends to be one of those treats that nobody really likes to enjoy. And according to a 2017 Forbes article, candy corn is among the most hated of all Halloween candies, and it's second to circus peanuts, actually. In that same year, Reese's peanut butter cups were the most favored, and oh boy, gotta love me some of those. Now, Halloween, great time of year, but also a movie franchise, and a lot of people right now are talking about Halloween 2018. And so I want to kind of go back and look at the franchise a little bit, because I find it very, very fascinating. Now, the new movie, which brings back Jamie Lee Curtis and, of course, Michael Myers, fictional character, brings back those two characters. It's been getting some rave reviews, but let's take a look at a little of the trivia based on that. So Jamie Lee Curtis, who was in the original Halloween, and in the second one as well, and sort of has returned over the years, she was considered for this 1978 John Carpenter film as a tribute to Alfred Hitchcock, because Janet Leigh, who's famous for the shower scene in the original Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock, that's Jamie Lee Curtis's mother. So that's an interesting fact. Now, the original 1978 movie was produced in 12 weeks, and it was shot on a shoestring budget of $300,000 US. It went on to make $47 million, and it was the most profitable independent film ever made until 1999 with the release of the Blair Witch Project. John Carpenter was allegedly paid $10,000 for the film, and Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers, was paid only $25 a day. A few other interesting things about the film: the sound of slashing flesh was created by stabbing a watermelon, and Michael Myers' mask was another side effect of that low budget, because it was derived from a William Shatner's likeness, actually, because they had purchased a Captain Kirk mask. Shatner played Captain Kirk in the Star Trek series. They peeled off the eyebrows, peeled back some of the hair, and they spray painted it white, and that's how they came up with the mask. Now, interestingly enough, the original Friday the 13th was derived from the entire premise for Halloween from 1978, and many slasher films for the next 40 years were sort of homage to Halloween and many of the tropes that John Carpenter set up in this particular film. And if you actually look at Michael Myers and then you look at Jason from the Friday the 13th franchise, you see very similar portrayals. You see the bad guy who just keeps getting up. You see the mask. You never actually see the face of the person. And of course, not to give anything away, but there is a relation to when both of them were young children associated with what they're going on. And of course, they both basically teach you that young people should not be having sex at an early age, because apparently that's what the bad guys do, is they just kill them because that's an evil thing to do. Well, that's just a little bit about Halloween, some trivia from Halloween for this year. Again, this is Mark Leslie wishing you a spectacular Halloween, a fantastic Friday, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you get lots of amazing treats, whether those are actual candy treats, whether they are treats from watching wonderful horror films or reading a fantastic book. I hope you enjoyed this free Friday Frights, and we'll see you next Friday.